Hey everyone, Michael Makrowitz with Coldwell Banker Realty. And before we get any further into 2020, I wanted to take a step back and do a decade in review video because we have seen our housing market in the South Bay area change so dramatically over that 10-year period. So I wanted to do a deep dive and figure out why has that happened? Why have prices skyrocketed? Why has the number of available properties dropped to the lowest levels that we've experienced? And same thing with interest rates and the foreign investment that we've had, and some of the largest companies in the world by market valuation putting deep roots in the Bay Area. But before I get into the specifics of how that's all changed, let's first take a quick step back and see how much the market has appreciated over that time period. If you bought your home in 2010 and then you looked at the value in 2019, it went up on average at 11.5% a year, a total of about 115% over that time period. But the last decade, it got off to a pretty slow start because it was 2009 really was the bottom for Santa Clara County as a whole. But there were several cities and areas within the South Bay that it was 2010 and 11 when they actually bottomed out. But I remember specifically it was like April of 2012 where I thought this market is starting to change. It feels different. More people are looking, and looking back, the prices reflect that. That's when the prices truly started to pick up. And the prices continued to go up pretty much year after year, with only about 2016, the summer specifically of 2016, when the market started to cool somewhat. Now that was an election year, and I think it was a lot of uncertainty combined with buyer fatigue of who is the next administration going to be, and at the same time, I'm so tired of being outbid by all these other buyers that I'm taking a step back. But as soon as we got into 2017, things picked up right back and actually ramped up, where the end of 2017 was incredibly competitive. And as we entered that first quarter of 2018, that is the craziest market that I've experienced. And from the people that I've talked to that have been in the business for 40 plus years, the same thing. The inventory in the first quarter of 2018 was so low, and the interest rates were low as well, and an expectation that they'd be going up. So a lot of people jumped into the market and were fighting over the handful of properties that would come up at a time and really increase those prices. But the market started to feel a lot different once we got into mid-May, and by June of 2018, it was like almost like the brakes got slammed on the market. Again, I think it was buyer fatigue and just this overall idea that the prices have gone up so much, it has to start to level out. And it really did. The prices came down pretty significantly in that second half of 2018. And I'd say over that last decade, 2019 was almost the most typical year that we're used to having in the Bay Area in terms of the seasonal cycles, where it starts to go up in the springtime. Peaks usually May, June, July, end of July and August, when people are going on last minute vacations and then school starts. The market cooled off, picked up for a little bit September, October, and then towards the end of the year started to go down. So that gives you a little bit of context of the wave that we've ridden over that 10-year period. So now let's look at why. How is it that the Bay Area hit the trough and within a 6-year period was back to even, and then well above and beyond within a very short period of time, while a lot of the rest of the country still hasn't recovered quite to their 2006 levels? Number one for our area is business growth. This is Silicon Valley. This has always been a very tech-driven area, but that has been ramped up to such a degree in the last 10 years. Sure, with 1999, 2000, we had a big dot-com boom. There's a lot of angel investors that are putting money into startups. But the difference with this market is that it's some of the largest companies in the world by market valuation that have put very deep roots and either established their headquarters here or grown their headquarters or have hired and continued to hire more employees. And these are companies that have built, bought, and leased millions of square footage of new office space. And I mean, if you look in the news, the local news, I see those articles still all the time of companies expanding. So many people have been brought into the Bay Area to work for a lot of these large companies and small companies alike. But these people are looking for housing. And all these people are arriving when we reached one of the biggest challenges that has impacted our housing market, and that is inventory. Now, why has that inventory dropped so dramatically? I think one of the reasons is that those move-up buyers that you'd usually have in a market where we bought our first home, then we're buying for maybe a better school district, then you buy that house that you've really always wanted, and then it's time to downsize. That cycle has been cut short because people say, well, yeah, I know that I can sell my home for a great price, but then there's not enough out there for me to find necessarily what I'm looking for, and even if I do find it, I'm competing with a lot of other people for the exact same property. A metric that's used to determine how hot a market is or how quickly homes are selling is months to sell. So if no new properties came on the market, how long would it take until they were all sold off? At the beginning of 2010, if no new listings had come on the market, it would have taken about 5.5 months for all those properties to sell. This last December, if no new properties had come on the market, they would have all been sold within a month. We began the decade with nearly 5,000 properties for sale. We ended the decade in Santa Clara County with less than 1,000. So the majority of the people I think that have moved and put their houses on the market in the last 10 years, those are people that are no longer working, they're retiring, and they're tired of the traffic, they're tired of the pace of life, and they realize, oh, I can sell my home and buy another one all cash in another area or follow family to wherever they ended up. And that has really been a small segment which has contributed to the low inventory. Another very important factor that influenced our market specifically, and really the only other markets that were impacted this way, is New York and Vancouver, from what I've heard. And that is foreign investment. A lot of foreign investors recognized the opportunities that our housing market afforded, and they jumped in. It was offers that were all cash, no contingencies. And there were certain periods in the last 10 years where actually a third of the residential sales were to foreign investors. So you combine that influx of interest and buyers in the market along with the already staggeringly low inventory, and that created the bidding wars and the price increases that we saw. And lastly, low interest rates. This has had an incredible impact on our market and continues right now to have an impact on our market. When being able to borrow money has been so cheap, a lot of people jumped into the housing market where they might not have been able to otherwise. So now you have some context for how much our housing market's changed, why the prices have gone up so dramatically. And I've had these conversations with people. There's a good side and there's a bad side to it. There's unintended consequences that we've experienced in the Bay Area. And there's also an incredible benefit of, if you have owned a property here, you're literally able to move to basically any other city in the United States, be able to buy a home and still have money left over. So I hope you found that helpful, having some context of what we've experienced in the South Bay Area. And I actually have a breakdown of each MLS area and city in Santa Clara County to show you how each area has fared over that time period. I'll make another video with that one, but until next time, happy house hunting, happy selling.